If there were one missing piece that you could put into your business and put it in right away, what do you think that would be? Well, before we get into that missing piece and how you can leverage and grow and blow up and scale your business, we're going to cue our intro and then we're going to talk about that. Welcome to Business Insights with Matt Milia. I'm your host, Matt Milia, and in this podcast, we'll talk about the real, raw, uncut business success secrets you won't find anywhere else. Follow my journey from entry level to CEO. We discuss real actionable items you can plug into your business right away. To subscribe to our weekly top tips, you can go to www.mattpodcast.com and join our community of elite high-level performers. And if you're interested in our inside sales company, you can go to www.appointmentstoday.com to jump on a free strategy call. And now, stay tuned for our podcast. All right. Hey, everybody. So Matt Milia here, Business Insights, and I'm super excited because I have somebody who I've looked up to now since 2013 is when I discovered Wally. He didn't even know that.
Right here. Wow, that's crazy. Wow, good for me. That's amazing. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Well, Wally, thank you so much for jumping on. I'm super stoked.
Thank you.
Well, so for everyone that's watching, I'd love for you to kind of just give a little background on you and your journey in business and real estate.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I graduated from college in 1990, long time ago. At the time it was probably the second worst year since World War II to get a job. So I substitute taught high school for a year, and then I got a job in the investment industry, mutual funds in Boston in 1991. I worked there for about 8 years, but corporate America definitely was not my friend. And so I decided that I wanted to do something different. At the time, the gentleman who ended up becoming my mentor was doing really well with Coldwell Banker. And I remember the conversation like it was yesterday. It was 1990. It was early 1998. And, I'd had a bad day at the office. And so I called him up and I said, "Hey, Brian, I want to come talk to you." He said, "Sure." I drove to his house and he was on his deck and he was standing his deck. And I said, "Why are you in real estate?" He says, "Well, what'd you do today?" I said, "Well, I had a presentation contest at work. I thought I did really well. I thought I finished first and I finished third, and it's kind of out of my control." I said, "What about your day?" He says, "Well, I had 2 closings that I wasn't at. I got paid $25,000, and then I hopped on my motorcycle and rode to the coast and had lunch, and here I am standing my deck." I'm like, "Sign me up." So, all right, okay, yeah. So I got my license in August of 1998, and then over the next 14 months, I sold 72 houses, which I was really, very grateful for. And obviously, it wasn't all on me. I had a great system. I had great training, I'm saying. So I was really put in the right situation. And then a couple of years after that, I worked with him to help build the Coldwell Banker office to one of the top Coldwell Banker offices in the world. And then I started, coaching really, 2001. And then, I know Mike and Jay really well. So I started working with their teams in 2006. And then I became their first coach in 2008 when they opened up Kinder Reese Coaching. And really been doing that since then. So I, 24 years in the real estate industry, 22 years in some form of coaching and training. So that's kind of puts me where I am today, So it's been a great ride. I've been very fortunate to work with lots of amazing agents, and I've had the opportunity to not just impact people's lives, but also my life impacted as well.
Well, you're an amazing guy as well. I mean, I think that's important that we don't leave that out, because your writing, and I mean, I'm going to say it. I'll say it again. Your writing is awesome, and you've got a book now. Absolutely, you got a book that's coming out and talking about some of the challenges, the struggles. But you've been ghostwriter for multiple people. You've wrote some amazing books. You've put out some amazing content. And tell everybody a little bit about the book that's about to be coming out, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Yeah, and thanks for the opportunity. So, a lot of people had tough lives. I had a tough life, and I made a lot of bad choices, had a lot of rough things happen to me, and then I did a lot of bad things, hurt a lot of people, and I've learned a lot of lessons along the way. If you're fortunate, you never hit rock bottom in life, and I can tell you it's not a fun place to be. And I kind of hit rock bottom back in 2019 after a really toxic relationship. And I just, it was just one bad decision after another. And every time it happened, I just didn't recover well. And I considered heavily in October 2019 taking my life. And then, I had kind of a flashback to when my dad died when I was 23, and just remembering how hard it was on my sisters and me and how it impacted my life so negatively. And I just decided I want to do that to my 4 kids. And so, the last few years I've really been working hard on myself. And, I realized that there are lots of people, especially entrepreneurs and salespeople, who aren't able to live their life, their dreams, to create the success they want because they have challenges and issues that they faced since they were young that they haven't worked through. And so, they're just not able to create for themselves, as Cliff Freeman calls it, time freedom, money freedom, and location freedom. And so, my book is about how I overcame what I experienced and how I overcame those things. And, how by taking radical responsibility for our lives and our decisions and what goes into our head, how we can change things. And no matter how old you are, how late you think it might be, that you still have a chance to create a great life for yourself. So that's it in a nutshell.
I love it. What's the book called?
It's called Tragic Hero, Picking Up the Pieces.
That.
If you don't follow classic literature, tragic hero is not a hero. It's not like the hero. It's more like somebody who makes a bunch of bad decisions and gets arrogant and haughty. And as a result of those bad decisions and being arrogant and haughty, they have a huge downfall. And then, they realize the error of their ways and how it happened. And they basically then it's all about them, working their way back to where the point where people look at them and see that they finally rebuilt their lives, and people finally understand what that person went through, and they're only a hero because of overcoming all the stuff they created to themselves, created for the bad stuff they created for themselves. So it's not truly like a hero, but it's more like a story of redemption.
But you know how relatable that is? Because think about it like this. You have all these people that are, they might be at the top of their game and things are amazing. And from the outside looking in, it looks like a perfect life. But then when you really dig deep and you get to the inner core, it's kind of built on a house of cards where, and it's not just necessarily a house of cards it's not necessarily a house of cards because of financial instability or things like that. It's sometimes in a case where a lot of these folks that so many people they put up on this pedestal, or they think they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. They don't always see that journey, everything that went into there. So that's amazing that you were able to articulate that, put that on paper, and I have a feeling that's going to go very, very well for you. And
from your, as they say in the circles of Italian families, as we know, from your mouth to God's ears, right? From your mouth to God's ears, right? So.
And the fact that you're able to put that down makes a huge difference. And now what you're focused on, and you learned, so, shout out to Brian Moses. You worked with Brian hand in hand. Brian's phenomenal. And one of the things that Brian, of course, I'm sure instilled in you, and you guys you had the luxury of role playing together, going through overcoming objections, handling different challenges and situations in real estate. How valuable was that for you?
Yeah, would you say? It's invaluable. You really can't put a price on it, and it's people don't realize this, but Brian was one of the pioneers of bringing buyer agency nationally and even into Canada. You know what I'm saying? Buyer agency really came available in 1992. It was as a result of a lawsuit in Minnesota. And, he got into business, let's see, like 93, 94, in that range, maybe a little earlier, 90. But anyways, he got in pretty early. But, the whole point is that, he had a good mentor, and then very much a revolutionary, very much a pioneer. And, he created the whole process around buyer agency, transaction processing fees, and taking the legal aspect of buyer agency and turning it into what we now know as buyer representation across the country, and how to do it, securing somebody to a buyer agency agreement, collecting a fee, negotiating your fee, and so, super smart guy, great coach, big heart. And, for me to be able to sit next to him on a daily basis, and it's actually a funny story. Like, I role play with somebody every day. I prospect every day, either for my business or for another business. I'm working on things all the time. But I remember our lease was up where we worked, and we were kind of in transition. Brian was buying a building, so he rented out this oversized closet from a guy that owned a mortgage company across the way. And when I say closet, it was a closet. It was a big closet. It was a closet, right? So he had cubes in there and we desking. So I prospected. We all sat in the room, and I sat there and prospected next to him every day. And when I did it, he'd say, don't say that, say this, don't say that, say this, you know what I'm saying? And so,
Right.
it was amazing. I mean, it really changed my life, not just as a real estate agent, but as a person, as a coach. I mean, it had a huge impact on me, like he has on thousands of agents across the country. And I think to your point, kind of why you brought this up is that, if you can't figure it out yourself, you got to have somebody help you figure it out. And if you look at the most successful real estate agents on the face of the planet, they had a coach at one point or another. And some of them still have coaches. I mean, look at, we got Jay and Mike and Albie, they're talking to Coach Bert, and, there's tons of coaches out there, and you always need to be continuing to grow and whatnot. And so, having Brian train me and coach me and work with me, I mean, it changed the trajectory of my life forever.
Well, even Michael Jordan had a coach outside of Phil Jackson, Tim Grover. Same with Kobe Bryant. I mean, all these elite athletes and these superhumans that we, of course, you look at and you're like, these guys are just absolutely
right.
They're amazing. And yet they all had coaches, and it's that person that pushes them a little bit extra. And if you guys are looking for a great coach, I'm talking to one right now. We got Wally on here.
Fine. I'm clearly not paying you enough for this. Holy cow. In fact, I'm not paying you anything for it, so clearly.
Hey, we're both helping each other, though. So phone sales.
Sure. Yeah.
Phonesalessecrets.com, guys. It's a great place to go to check out what Wally's got going on. The reason behind this is because Wally actually teaches on one of the most important elements of calling. And before I get into that, Wally, what do you teach on with the calling? Go ahead.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, everything. I mean, there's everything. And here's the thing. And so this is, I've done a lot of research on this, and just to understand it at a high level. But, the phone is still important in the whole sales process. You know this. You have a company that sells people on the phone like you. That's how you make your living. And so it's funny. The internet, I think it hit the ground in 1995. It finally was made available to the public in 1995. I want to say April of 1995. Right. I remember seeing articles. They're like, "Oh, you're never going to buy anything again at a store. Brick and mortar is going to go away. You're going to buy everything off the internet." You know what I'm saying? And there were some industries that were crushed by it: travel, legal, insurance, stuff like that. But fact of the matter is that, you're still buying cars and houses and everything, when you still have to have a conversation, and you've got all these people jump up and down, do video, do social media. And you have to do it because that's where people are going to find you. But at the end of the day, you still need to get somebody from the doorstep through the front door. Right.
Yep.
So the fact of the matter is that, 40% of existing, not existing, but of experienced salespeople and 80% of new salespeople in every industry suffer from some sort of sales call reluctance. Okay. And compound that by the fact that 65% of all salespeople have a very strong need to be liked. So a lot of people aren't able to break through what they need to break through to get to the point where they're going to have a conversation with somebody and either get an appointment set up or nurture them and whatnot. So I teach people on both sides of the coin. So how to conduct a sales call properly, how to set goals, how to track your numbers, scripts, dialogues, objection handling, all the nonverbal aspects of prospecting, tone of voice and pace, pitch, speed, matching and mirroring, pacing and leading, how to listen for things, to hear what's not being said. So, so it's every aspect of being on the phone, both, nonverbal and verbal, and then also what it takes to overcome the challenges that are facing you that keep you from wanting to pick up the phone. And, there's two types of call reluctance. One is, I don't know what to say, when to say it, how to say it. My confidence level about what to do is not there. And so I'm likely not going to do that, but you can overcome that with some practice, right? The other one is a literal, emotional, psychological blockage that you have, for lack of better terminology, because of some things that have happened in your life where you've created what I call hidden identities about you believe you can and can't do. And so if you have that, the first thing I do is teach people how to overcome that, and then how to get on the phone, and then how to be really good on the phone, and not just how to be good on the phone, but also how to actually do what you do, which is, progressive profiling, contact somebody, build a relationship, capture information, build that relationship over time, stay in touch with them, and become, in their mind, the end all be all, gold medal, winner of solving their needs or their problems. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I love that. And it's such a lost art. I want to circle back, because there was something that you said in there that was really profound, that I think that a lot of people, if they weren't really listening, they would just brush by it. I think that it's something that we need to really look at. So the way that I look at with any sale, any process, any system, if you look at it as the approach of a funnel, and we look at it, the top of the funnel is the external appearance, the, hey, this is what I do, this is who I am, this is how I do it. That's your video portion. Of course, it's very important. But then you've got that next step, which, what system do you have in place? What tools do you have to make sure that if the person wants to get a hold of you, they can? And then when they go to get a hold of you, what do you say to that person? How do you convince them? How do you persuade them? So you are almost, I would say, the mofu bofu, the middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. We're like right in that little sweet spot area that converts to a sale. And with what both of us are doing, one of the most important things I said in the very beginning, we're going to talk about the one most important element in your business. And of course, I'm going to be a little bit biased because I have an inside sales company, and hey, we train people to be good at inside sales, but I believe that the real estate model itself is broken. And the reason why I say that is because, think about this, before there was internet leads, right? It was all referral based. It was all relationship based. So, right? Yeah. So with the referral, the relationship, you're more or less with people consistently, constantly in front of one another, and you're able to get a sale from that. But it's very challenging now because you got these buyer leads who necessarily don't know who you are. You got seller leads. Sometimes they don't know who you are.
True.
So you got to have that time and know what to say, know what to do when those folks get on the phone. Is that more or less where you help people with, if a lead, whatever the lead is, whether cold, warm, whatever it is, do you help them with that, navigating that conversation?
Yeah, and it's interesting because, and we had this. I worked in the mutual fund industry for about 8 years, and we used to have this saying called, don't spill all your candy in the lobby. Meaning, right, when don't get on the phone and just start yapping and start throwing up all over people, everything. There's definitely an art to it. There's a science and there's an art. The science would be the nonverbal side of it. Yep. The art would be the verbal side of it. I'm saying, as far as I'm concerned. And I definitely, by the way, I'm not a tofu guy. I don't like tofu anyway. And the top of funnel is somebody else's game. I don't.
I know.
I'm messing with you. So, but I digress. So, but the whole point is, to answer your question, you have to know as soon as you get on the phone with somebody what your goal is and what you're trying to accomplish. Right? There's one outcome of every call, and that's what? Set an appointment.
Yeah.
That's it. I want to set an appointment. The secondary outcome is to create a nurture, and the third outcome is to decide you're not going to do business with that person at all.
Right.
So you have to know that those are your three outcomes, and that your job is literally to get the information that you need in order to make a decision as to why you want to do business with this person. I think some people get so excited to get somebody on the phone that they're more interested in just trying to get in front of somebody, try and get them to go buy a house. But if you're not asking for timing, if you're not finding out motivation, if you're not finding out capabilities, if you're not finding out what you need, and you're running out meeting with people, you're going to burn a lot of time, a lot of energy. You're not going to make a whole lot of money. So, you got to know what you're trying to accomplish, and then you got to know what to look for once you. So look, I set an appointment. Now, is this somebody that I want to spend time with? Right? Jim Rohn, time is more valuable than money. You can always make more time. Money, you can't make more time. Is this somebody that I want to invest my time with? I can't be so excited. They said yes, that it's not the right person. So, ready, willing, and able. Do you have money? Are you committed to doing it? There's some sort of life event that's committed to, that you're committed to meeting from a time frame standpoint. And are you willing to do what it takes to go ahead and buy or sell a home? If that's yes, great. If not, then, we have to meet later.
I had the whole element of what you brought up. It made, I don't know how this happened. It just made me think of a story from, I used to work at Quicken Loans. I worked in mortgage for, I was at Quicken for about a year, and I would have been there longer, but I also wouldn't have had a wife either. So I had to kind of make that decision.
I had one of those jobs. Yep. I remember that well.
Oh yeah. You lived there. And I'll never forget this though. My buddy, one of my good buddies and we would drive into work every day. And this guy, he would blow my numbers out of the water. Like he was like, and I ended up being, I was like number 3, I think number 4 overall.
You're Quicken?
At Quicken, yeah. And that was between Arizona, Michigan, and Ohio. There was a few thousand people. He was usually, he was actually, his numbers were better than mine, but he was always way down on the chart. And a lot of it is because of what you just said of get so excited to, get that appointment. Oh yeah, I got an appointment. But they forgot about adding value along the way and listening to the buying cues, listening to what these people had to say. And you'd forget about filling all those gaps in, asking good qualifying questions. So he'd throw all this garbage up, and he'd throw 30, 40 deals up in a month, and out of the 40 deals, 34, 35 of them would fall off. I would throw up about 16, 17, 18 deals, and they were out of 17, 18 deals, 16, 17 of them would close.
Right.
And that's what I would explain to him. I'm like, listen, you're spending time on all these deals that aren't going anywhere. You've got to be able to ask the right questions. Just like you said, you got to have that rhythm of what to ask. And of course, in a lot of cases, if you don't know what to ask, I think that's the big part of it. Do you kind of go through and tell people what questions and things to ask when they go through the training with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's I've got like a whole outline that I take people through, and it's, let's know your outcomes, okay, and then let's know what our avatar is, what kind of prospect we're looking for, and then also now, and I'll get to your question in a second because it's all part of it, but you gotta have a business model. What's your business model? You can't go to McDonald's and get lasagna. Right. You know what I'm saying? You can't go to Olive Garden and get tacos. You know what I'm saying? Companies have their business models, right? They're doing what they do best, right? So from your perspective, when you're working with a buyer, are they buying within 90 days or less? Do they have cash or can they get financing? Do they have a life event? Is there a birth or death? Getting a job, leaving a job, marriage, divorce? I mean, what are the minimum criteria that somebody has to have in order for you to decide you're going to do business with them? And then from there, what do you need to do to set an appointment? And once you set the appointment, how do you qualify that appointment, right? And and so it's interesting because I bought these objection cards, these 40 objection cards. They're called cash cards. I forget, some guy was selling them online. He's supposedly some like famous. I'm trying to see his name here, but I can't find his name. But he's supposedly some like famous sales guy. And I was like, I've never heard of his name before. Doesn't mean he's not famous or not good, but I saw these cards. They were like 40 cards for what do you call it, for objections. And so I got them because I just want to look at them. I'm always like trying to learn more and grow more. But when you break it down, there's only really 5 objections. There's different, right? So there's timing. See my hand? So there's timing, right? There's money. There's motivation. Yep. I'm going to do it, or so I'm going to have somebody else do it, right? Right. And then maybe I have to talk to somebody else, right? But the whole point is there's not a truckload of objections. Now there's a bunch of different little sub-objections to all that, right? So if you know what to say to set an appointment, if you know what you're looking for, and then you can handle, let's call it 6. If you can handle anything that comes up in those 6 objections, right, covered. You know what I'm saying? And so, and I think people make it really hard on themselves because they feel like they have to know so much, and then they don't practice, they don't call enough. So it's like getting a shot every day. You get on the phone because you don't do it enough. So. Yep. Yeah. So, you have to know what to say, when to say it, how to say it, and you know what you're shooting for. You need to know what type of people you want to work with, and then you just got to apply that on a consistent basis,
And I think the worst thing too is the ones that practice when they get on the phone. Don't do that. Find someone to practice with. I mean, you could even find a family member or friend that's not even in the sales business to practice with. Practice your pitch on them and say, hey, just do a normal objection of what you normally would think of if you didn't want to buy something. Yeah, people are good at that. They're real good at it.
Yeah, people. Anybody wants to be. I love that. Like you always tell people, hey, let's role play. They're like, oh, I'll do it. They're like they think they're going to stump you. And it's kind of funny because at the end of the day, I'm going to decide if I want to work with you or not. So it's not so much that I have to get an appointment with you, but I want one. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, so. I'm so glad you say that because one of the things I always train my guys up on, I say, listen, it's about focus on a quality conversation and extract as much information. You got to come in like you're an investigator and come in and ask great questions. One of the, I don't know if this was Jordan Belfort, but it was one of these things that I remember back from when I was watching, and it said, you remember Columbo, where Columbo would go in and he would just be like all like stumbling upon something. Oh, hey, by the way, like,
can you tell me, ma'am, on the yeah, that I think you tell me, ma'am, on the Sunday, right? So
right. You gotta have though that natural inquisitive curiosity, and there's no shame, and I want to, for everyone that's watching, because we have a lot of loan officers, agents, insurance agents, just business owners in general, but we have a lot of folks that watch that are in this financial end of the business, and one of the biggest challenges a lot of them have is that they're, oh, I'm not good at being naturally inquisitive on calls or whatever the case may be. Well, one, we're not born that way, and it takes practice. But if you don't want to get good at it, that's where guys like us come into handy, because they can hire an in-house person and have you help them coach that in-house person, or do it for them, or you get a done for you system through us. So it's a matter of figuring out what you're going to put your focus into. I mean, that's how I look at it.
I agree. And that kind of speaks to the business model conversation you brought up a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, think of one business where you work with somebody where they're efficient, where they do everything. There isn't.
No, there's not. There really isn't.
I mean, unless maybe you're like a dog groomer, you know what I'm saying, where you have the dogs, tethered to the pole and you're doing everything yourself. But there's very few businesses where you're going to be successful, where you can scale, where you can create an even bigger, better opportunity for yourself, where you do everything yourself, And I think what I tell my coaching clients is that nothing is, quote, permanent or terminal, right? You're never going to have to prospect forever all your own. You're never going to process transactions forever by yourself. You never do marketing all by yourself. You can always do it until you can pay somebody to do it, and then you pay somebody else to take over that, right? Which is, where your organization comes in huge value for people, because you've got a proven system, you've got great trained people, you've got proven results. And as soon as I can afford to hire you, I should hire you, because you're doing for me what, number one, isn't the best, highest and best use of my time. Isn't the most dollar productive activity for me. And yet it gives me the bandwidth to go ahead and do a better job and build my business, and
100%,
right. No employees to manage, no benefits to take care of, no reviews to do, no tracking to take care of. It's like the Ron Popeil, Showtime Grill, set it and forget it. Let's talk every week,
Right.
Right. It's not unlike that. It's a little more involved in that. But the whole point is, and there's a book called Predictable Revenue.
Great book.
Right. Written about, the basically the growth of Salesforce, right? Taking Salesforce from a $1 million company to a $10 million company in a year.
Yeah.
Something like that, and, the whole premise of that book is segmentation, letting people do what they do best, and there's account managers, there's, business development reps, there's inside salespeople, there's outside salespeople, and you let the people who are best at what they do what they do, and you do what you do best. And so, it's the key important distinction here. If you're going to hire somebody to replace you in a specific part of your business, you got to make sure, number one, that you have the financial wherewithal to do that. Right. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you don't want somebody to spend their last X number of dollars on buying your product. Where they can only afford you for 1 month.
Right. No.
Because it's going to take you 90 days to at least have them start seeing some results, right? 60 to 90 days.
Yeah.
I mean, you get appointments pretty quickly, but for them to start turning those things into dollars, it takes a few months. And real estate sales cycle is 90 days, right? So the whole point is if you're going to replace somebody in your business, you got to make sure you have the financial wherewithal to do it, and that you understand when you're replacing that person that you can still give them the feedback that they need to get the results that they want, and then you'll know if what has replaced you is working or not. So anyway, got a little bit off the beaten path here, but
no,
we didn't. Okay, so anyway, the whole point is
true.
Okay, right. The whole point is that you want a model that works well for you, and that means at some point 100%. You're not going to do it all yourself.
You couldn't have picked a perfect area though to touch upon, because this is something, and I've had interviews with I've had interviews with present clients, past clients, pretty much anyone you can imagine. And one of the things that I've always asked them, I said, what was one of the biggest things that you learned about an inside sales rep? They said, well, it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be, as fast as it was going to be. I'm like, okay, tell me more about that. And then, of course,
real estate.
Right, exactly. And that
real estate,
exactly. And that was one of the things that these people realized. They're like, but we stuck it out. And, the first month or two was a little rough. It was tough, though. You're navigating tough waters because there is a cash conversion cycle to there's a cash conversion cycle to everything, but to real estate, It's one of the slowest cash conversion cycles. It's one of the slowest ones that I know of. I could be wrong. There could be other ones that are slower, but it is very slow. But that's why there's huge rewards in the end when it closes, when the deals are funded. And for those that invest the time, now, of course, there's always, and I'm going to go back to Vern Harnish, Scaling Up. There's 3 challenges generally in any business. There's either a skill problem, there's a tool and system problem, or there's a people problem. And I always look at it with, I think that's skill, tool, and system. Oh, maybe data.
Well,
data might be.
Well, that's not in every business, but in the sales side of the business, yes.
Yes, in the sales side, yes.
Tools, data, effort, and skill, right? And effort and skill will be into the people side of things, yeah.
Right. So, and that's where a lot of times business owners are always like, well, it's the people, or it's, or then of course the people are like, well, it's the leads. But sometimes it's just a mix of everything, and you've got to be able to really get in there and figure out what the issue is and then solve for it, but also realize that everything takes time to materialize. We just launched a nationwide campaign. I'm super excited about it. You're actually the first person I'm sharing this with on the podcast. But we just launched a nationwide campaign for lead generation, which you've probably seen me in some of the groups being like, hey, I need a referral for this area.
Oh, yeah.
It's because we're running online advertising, and I am the actual inside sales rep right now for that. Yesterday was one of the most exciting days because I finally delegated it off, because I was getting, 8, 9, 10 leads a day, and they're coming at all kinds of weird times throughout the day. I'm picking up the phone, calling them, going through the process. But it's very exciting because that right now is one of the biggest needs especially in the real estate industry, is good, solid, high quality seller leads, and not just leads, people that are actually agreeing to, yes, you can come, have an expert come see my house, have somebody tell me about selling my house. So the reason why I brought that up wasn't for a shameless plug, because we really don't even sell that off to anybody.
Shamelessly plug. I mean, people need leads. I mean, you need leads if you're going to be successful. You know what I'm saying? And most people aren't doing a great job. They don't. Go ahead, sorry.
No, you're good. But my point was, the lesson I learned, Wally, was that when I was doing this a few months ago, I was using the wrong system to generate the leads. And just, even though I was, good on the phone, having conversations, they weren't converting like I thought they should have. Now, change the system, change the tool, which I'll tell everybody is YouTube. YouTube is probably the greatest thing right now since sliced bread when it comes to generating leads. I have generated really solid, high quality leads from there. So why is that important? Because my system, there was nothing wrong with the system. I was the one calling. Arguably, maybe it was me, who knows? But I was making the calls. The calls were going well. But they just were not motivated to take action. So I figured out it was a data problem. Once I fixed that, all of a sudden, everything became exponentially better. And I feel like that's kind of what we do for people in their business. We help them take those elements of their business and fix what's broken.
No, and I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I've referred you to a bunch of my clients and certainly believe in what you do. It's interesting. You must hear, the leads suck. Oh, the leads suck. Well, there's a chance the leads suck, but you don't know unless you've beat the crap out of them for 90 days until you've called them. You know what I mean? InsideSales.com, which is some strange name of its company now, but InsideSales.com says to really scrub a lead source at the beginning, you got to contact them 10 times in 14 days, text messages, emails, phone calls, just to see if you can catch up with somebody. And then you got to nurture them and stay on top of them. Whether either you got to stay on top of them if they don't connect with you, you've got to nurture them if you do connect with them. And so, most people, number one, and this is where the model's broken too. I get a couple deals. I don't have the time to make 10 contacts, over 14 days. I don't have time to nurture leads. You know what I'm saying? And so, the tough thing as a real estate agent is you're basically, when you do your job and you start selling houses, you're taking yourself out of the one part of the business you really can't afford to take yourself out of, and that's lead generation and conversion.
Yep. And that's where this roller coaster comes in for some agents. And the goal is just to keep it going nice, up and steady, not this, because this is when it gets dangerous, where you're going down hills. And
you can even make it like, when I worked in the mutual fund industry, we talked about, the performance of funds being like using a yo-yo walking uphill. right? The growth is consistent. There may be ups and downs along the hill, but you're always growing. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. For sure. Mm-hmm.
So true. Well, Wally, first and foremost, I mean, again, thank you so much for coming on. By the way, for everybody that wants to reach out to Wally, Wally at phonesalessecrets.com. Any closing thoughts, Wally, that you wanted to just share with anybody that is either thinking about maybe, help getting someone to help either delegate calling leads off to, or getting someone to help with, anything in their business? What are your thoughts for them?
I think, we kind of create these benchmarks as to when to bring people on, you know what I mean? So, when it comes to the whole prospecting thing and whatnot, because the people that they got to pay for your service or an ISA service, and they got to pay for leads too. You know what I'm saying? So I tell people,
right.
If you really want to do it right and be protected, you should have 3 to 4 months of whatever it is in the bank that you don't need to touch, roughly, or on its way. You know what I'm saying? So that way, you put 3 to 4 months of your fee for whatever, lead conversion service you use, whether it's Matt or Hire an ISA, 3 to 4 months of lead costs in the bank. You should be fine, because then you'll give yourself a whole full sales cycle to take advantage of what's coming in from this new lead production strategy, to go ahead and replace that income going forward and never have to come out of pocket again. And so what I would do is I would look at my business and I would say, okay, what do I need to do to put aside whatever it is, to hire an ISA with leads? It's like 12 grand, something like that. No, 14 grand. Yeah, about 14. If you put 15 grand in the bank, you can hire your own ISA and you can have enough money for leads. Matt's cost is significantly lower than that. It's probably closer to 10 for everything for leads, right? And so, but put that money aside and that you don't need to touch. And then you go ahead and hire a guy like Matt and his company to do what they need to do. And then, give them the full sales cycle to produce and get you the sales that you need on your side. And then, you should never have to worry about coming out of pocket again. I think that's the best bet. And the thing is you have to do it yourself until then. You have to get on the phone. You have to make phone calls. You got to talk to people. And the same thing, even if you go online and you become this rock star online, these super well-known people online, and you can get people to want to do business with you or talk to you about doing business with you, you still got to give them a compelling reason. You still got to pick up the phone and call them, build relationships with them, and I hear every day, I just talked to somebody the other day who sold a house for somebody, helped somebody buy a house last year. And the person called them and said, hey, I want to go ahead and sell my house because I want to move to Florida for some business. And this person's like, okay, great, I'll do that. He says, I'm going to Florida, I'll be back. And, she didn't take the time to try and get the appointment, where this is going, right? She didn't take the time to make the appointment and get it done. And he went down to Florida and met an agent down there to buy a house. And they said, hey, let me refer you to somebody that works for our company up in Texas. And next thing you know, he's buying and selling a house with somebody else because we didn't give that person a compelling reason. We didn't have a sense of urgency. We didn't know what to do, when to do, how to do it, and to give people the reason to do business with us in that case. And so that's how the person lost out on the opportunity. So at the end of the day, I don't care what kind of marketing and advertising you're doing. I don't care how great your social media strategy is. You need to be able to give people compelling reasons over the phone to meet with you so that you can talk about working with you.
Right. And if you can't do it, you better hire someone to do it so that you have someone to at least help facilitate all of that.
And to your point, they would be better off hiring someone. And listen, again, this is not a paid endorsement. I was kidding at the beginning. They would be better off hiring somebody like you in your organization because there's nothing to figure out and they have no monitoring they're doing. They don't have to check and see if you're doing it well or doing it not well. You hire your own ISA, then you really can't hire your own ISA until you know everything that you need to do, because you're going to have to monitor that person, give them feedback, give them coaching, tell them, what they're not doing well. You know what I'm saying? And that's obviously, a bigger expense. It's good.
Oh, yeah.
You have to know what you're doing,
It's a bigger expense and a bigger headache in a lot of cases and again, if you're ready for that, it can be great, but you've really got to have a system in place to do that because it's so funny because people ask me, well, what's better, a virtual inside salesperson or an in-house inside salesperson? Now, of course, you would think, I'm saying, virtual. I tell them both. I say, listen, do both. And they're like, both? Yes, do both. Well, why? Well, let me explain. The virtual person is going to be your SDR in most cases, your sales development rep. They're going to be the person doing the grunt work, the heavy lifting of, okay, let me cold call this, around this neighborhood listing, or let me just call around the neighborhood. That's going to yield massive returns later in the year, 6 months, 7 months, 12 months down the line. You're going to see massive returns on your investment from having that. You have the in-house person. The in-house person works on, hey, I got these leads that are coming in from, I'm not trying to plug them, but we'll just use them as an example. Zillow. I got Zillow Flex leads coming in, and whatever lead you have, I mean, it's fine. Realtor.com, whatever. Whatever these leads are that are coming in, you're spending good money on these leads, right? So, hey, there's a guy that sits right next to me in my office. I'm going to have him work on those. I'm going to have the sales development rep work on stuff that guy in the office can't get to. You've got a perfect build out, and ultimately you should be able to use that build out for quite some time, where you've got the power of the in-house and the power of the virtual ISA, and it's just a nice match.
You know, and the best thing about that is once you get there and you do what you're supposed to do and take care of it, it'll never go away.
Right. And that's because with an in-house person, the only risk with it, because an in-house person, you're going to be able to really groom them, and that, who knows, that person might become your lead listing agent, or if it's, or if it's the finances, that person might become a sales manager from other people in your team. It happens. It happens all the time. But what a lot of people miss out on is if that person that you hire in-house, they get another job offer, they get another opportunity. I mean, I literally just had somebody the other day call me, and they're like, oh my gosh, we had this person. I talked to them months ago. They're like, hey, we have an in-house person. We appreciate you. Hey, no problem. No big deal. I get it. All of a sudden now they're like, how quickly can we start? I'm like, what do you mean? What's going on? What happened to your in-house person? Oh, they just quit. No notice, nothing. And I'm like, oh. So having both makes a world of difference. So
we could have a whole call on hiring properly. You know what I'm saying? We could have a whole call on just how to hire properly too. So can I just direct people to my website real quickly? Would that be okay?
Of course. Yes.
Because I got a little freebie for them. You know, the only bad thing, well, not the only bad thing, but one of the worst things about sales call reluctance is that it's not going to go away on its own. It's not like a cut. You know what I'm saying? It's not like something you put a Band-Aid and some Neosporin on and it goes away. You have to do the work to make it go away. And I assure you, I promise you, it is virtually impossible to build a scalable real estate business or any business if you're not willing to get on the phone and talk to people.
So true.
And I'm not trying to be mean or hurtful. Your business will never grow the way you want it to grow if you're not willing to get on the phone and talk to people. It's just the way it is. So, I've got a free mini course I created on my website. It's phonesalessecrets.com. It's a little 5-step program I've come up with to help people overcome sales call reluctance. Go grab it. And then there's a way to schedule a free 15-minute consultation with me if you want to talk a little bit more about it. If you're having problems with prospecting, getting on the phone, scripts, dialogue, skills, hiring an ISA, whatever it is, go and grab 15 minutes. It's free. And let's talk and see if I can direct you. My goal isn't to sell you anything on that call or to try and squeeze you for money. It's just to consult with you, give you some direction, and see how I can help you. All right? That's all I got for you today, man.
Awesome. Wally, thank you so much for jumping on, adding so much value. And for everyone that's watching, we'll see you same time, same channel next week. Thanks again, Wally. See you, everybody.
Yeah, bye.